34. Quite toward the end of the season, Prince Szyszerbatsky, who from Karlsbad had gone on to Baden and Kissingen to see some Russian friends and to inhale some Russian spirit, as he expressed it, returned to his family. The views of the prince and the princess on life abroad were diametrically opposed. The princess found everything admirable, and in spite of her firmly established position in Russian society, tried when abroad to appear like a European lady, which she was not, being thoroughly Russian. She therefore became somewhat artificial, which made her feel uncomfortable. The prince, on the contrary, considered everything foreign detestable, and life abroad oppressive, and kept to his Russian habits, purposely trying to appear more unlike a European than he really was. He returned looking thinner, with the skin on his cheeks hanging loose, but in the brightest of spirits. His spirits were still better when he saw Kitty completely recovered. The news of her friendship with Madame Stahl and Varenka, and the information the princess gave him of the change she had observed in Kitty, disturbed him, and aroused in him his usual feelings of jealousy toward anything that drew his daughter away from him, and of fear lest she might escape from his influence into regions inaccessible to him. But these unpleasant rumours were soon drowned in that sea of kind-hearted cheerfulness which was always within him, and which was increased by the Karlsbad water. The day after his arrival, the prince, attired in a long overcoat, and with his Russian wrinkles, and his slightly puffy cheeks supported by a stiff collar, went out in the brightest of spirits to the springs with his daughter. The morning was lovely. The bright, tidy houses, with their little gardens, the sight of the red-faced, red-armed, beer-saturated German housemaids, and the clear sunshine, cheered the heart. But the nearer one came to the spring, the more often one met sick people, whose appearance seemed yet sadder amid these customary, well-ordered conditions of German life. Kitty was no longer struck by this contrast. The bright sunshine, the gay glitter of the green trees, and the sounds of music had become for her the natural framework of all these familiar figures, and of the changes for better or for worse which she watched. But to the prince, the radiance of the June morning, the sounds of the band playing a fashionable and merry valse, and particularly the appearance of the sturdy maidservants, seemed improper and monstrous in contrast with all those melancholy living corpses collected from all parts of Europe. In spite of the pride and the sense of renewed youth which he experienced while walking arm in arm with his favourite daughter, he felt almost awkward and ashamed of his powerful stride and his large, healthy limbs. He had almost the feeling that might be caused by appearing in company without clothes. Introduce me to your new friends," he said to his daughter, pressing her arm with his elbow. "I've even taken a liking to your nasty Soden, because it has done you so much good. But it's sad, this place of yours, very sad. Who was that?" Kitty told him the names of the acquaintances and others whom they met. Just at the entrance to the gardens, they met the blind Madame Berthe with her guide, and the prince was pleased by the tender look on the old Frenchwoman's face when she heard Kitty's voice. With friend's exaggeration, she at once began talking to him, admiring him for having such a delightful daughter, and in Kitty's presence praised her up to the skies, calling her a treasure, a pearl, and a ministering angel. "Then she must be angel number 2, the prince remarked with a smile. "She calls Mademoiselle Varenka angel number 1. "Ah, Mademoiselle Varenka is a real angel, allez," said Madame Berthe. In the gallery they met Varenka herself. She was walking hurriedly toward them with an elegant little red bag in her hand. "See, Papa has come," said Kitty to her. Simply and naturally, as she did everything, Varenka made a movement between a bow and a curtsy, and immediately began talking to the prince just as she talked to everybody, easily and naturally. "Of course I know you. I've heard all about you," the prince said to her with his smile, by which Kitty saw with joy that her father liked Varenka. "Where are you hurrying so to?" "Mamma is here," said she, turning to Kitty. "She did not sleep all night, and the doctor advised her to go out. I'm taking her work." "So that is angel number 1, said the prince when Varenka had gone. Kitty saw that he would have liked to make fun of Varenka, but was unable to do so because he liked her. "Well, let us see all your friends," he added, "including Madame Stahl, if she will condescend to recognize me." "Oh, do you know her, Papa?" asked Kitty, alarmed by an ironical twinkle in the prince's eyes when he mentioned Madame Stahl. "I knew her husband, and her too, slightly, before she joined the Pietists." "What are Pietists, Papa?" asked Kitty, frightened by the fact that what she valued so highly in Madame Stahl had a name. "I don't know very well myself. I only know that she thanks God for everything, including all misfortunes, and thanks God for her husband's death. And it seems funny, for they did not get on well together." "Who's that? What a pitiful face," he said, noticing an invalid of medium height who sat on a bench in a brown coat and white trousers, which fell into strange folds over his emaciated legs. The man raised his straw hat above his thin curly hair, uncovering a tall forehead with an unhealthy redness where the hat had pressed it. "It is Petrov, an artist," Kitty replied, blushing. "And that is his wife," she added, indicating Anna Pavlovna, who on their approach went away with apparent intention, following a child who had run along the path. "Poor man, what a nice face he has," said the prince. "Why did you not go up to him? He looked as if he wished to say something to you." "Well, come back then," said Kitty, turning resolutely. "How are you today?" she asked Petrov. Petrov rose with the aid of a stick and looked timidly at the prince. "This is my daughter," said the prince. "Allow me to introduce myself." The artist bowed and smiled, exposing his strangely glistening white teeth. "We were expecting you yesterday, Princess," he said to Kitty. He staggered as he said it, and to make it appear as if he had done this intentionally, he repeated the movement. "I meant to come, but Varenka told me that Anna Pavlovna sent word that you were not going." "Not going?" said Petrov, flushing and immediately beginning to cough, and looking round for his wife. "Annetta! Annetta!" he said loudly, and the veins in his white neck protruded like thick cords. Anna Pavlovna drew near. "How is it you sent word to the princess that we were not going?" he said in an irritable whisper, his voice failing him. "Good morning, Princess," said Anna Pavlovna with a forced smile, quite unlike her former way of greeting Kitty. "I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance," she went on, turning to the prince. "You have long been expected, Prince." "How is it you sent to tell the princess we were not going?" the painter whispered hoarsely and still more angrily, evidently irritated because his voice failed him, and he could not give his words the expression he desired. "Ah, dear me, I thought we were not going," said his wife with vexation. "How so, when—" He was interrupted by a fit of coughing, and made a hopeless gesture with his hand. The prince raised his hat and went away with his daughter. "Oh," he sighed deeply. "What poor things." "Yes, Papa," replied Kitty, "and you know they have 3 children, no servants, and hardly any means. He received something from the academy," she explained animatedly, trying to stifle the excitement resulting from the strange alteration in Anna Pavlovna's manner toward her. "And there's Madame Stahl," said Kitty, pointing to a bath chair on which, under a sunshade, lay something supported by pillows, wrapped up in grey and pale blue. It was Madame Stahl. Behind her was a sullen-looking, robust German workman who pushed her bath chair. At her side stood a fair-haired Swedish count, whom Kitty knew by name. Several patients lingered nearby, gazing at this lady as at something out of the common. The prince approached her, and Kitty immediately noticed in his eyes that ironical spark which so disturbed her. He went up to Madame Stahl and spoke to her extremely politely and nicely in that excellent French which so very people speak nowadays. "I do not know whether you will remember me, but I must recall myself to you in order to thank you for your kindness to my daughter," he said, raising his hat and not putting it on again. "Prince Alexander Shcherbatsky," said Madame Stahl, lifting toward him her heavenly eyes, in which Kitty detected displeasure. "I am very pleased. I've grown very fond of your daughter." "Your health is still no good?" "No, but I am accustomed to it," said Madame Stahl, and introduced the Swedish count to the prince. "You are very little changed," said the prince. "I've not had the honour of seeing you for 10 or 11 years. "Yes, God sends a cross and gives the strength to bear it. It often seems strange to think why this life should drag on." "On that side," she said irritably to Varenka, who was not wrapping the plaid round her feet the right way. To do good, probably, said the prince, whose eyes were laughing. That is not for us to judge, said Madame Stahl, detecting something hardly perceptible on the prince's face. Then you will send me that book, dear Count. Thank you very much, she added, turning to the young Swede. Ah! Exclaimed the prince, seeing the Moscow colonel standing nearby, and with a bow to Madame Stahl he moved away with his daughter, and with the Moscow colonel, who had joined them. That is our aristocracy, Prince, remarked the colonel, wishing to appear sarcastic. He had a pique against Madame Stahl because she did not wish to be acquainted with him. Always the same, answered the prince. Did you know her before her illness, Prince? I mean before she was laid up? Yes, I knew her when she first became an invalid. I hear she's not been up for 10 years. She does not get up because her legs are too short. She has a very bad figure. Papa, impossible! Exclaimed Kitty. Evil tongues say so, my love. But your Varenka does get it, he added. Ah, those invalid ladies. Ah, no, Papa, Kitty objected warmly. Varenka adores her. And besides, she does so much good. Ask anyone you like. Everybody knows her and Aline Stahl. Perhaps, he said, pressing her arm with his elbow. But it is better to do good so that, ask whom you will, no one knows anything about it. Kitty was silent, not because she had nothing to say, but because she did not want to reveal her secret thoughts even to her father. Yet, strange to say, though she had made up her mind not to submit to her father's opinion, and not to let him enter her sanctuary, she felt that the divine image of Madame Stahl, which she had carried in her bosom for a whole month, had irrevocably vanished. As a figure formed by a cast-off garment vanishes when one realizes how the garment is lying. There remained only a short-legged woman who was always lying down because she had a bad figure, and who tormented poor unresisting Varenka for not tucking her plaid the right way. And by no efforts of imagination could the former Madame Stahl be recalled. "35. The prince imparted his good spirits to his household, his friends, and even to his German landlord. On returning from the spring with Kitty, the prince, who had invited the colonel, Mary Evgenievna, and Varenka to come and take coffee, had a table and chairs brought out into the garden under a chestnut tree, and breakfast lay there. The landlord and the servants brightened up under his influence. They knew his generosity, and in a quarter of an hour the sick Hamburg doctor, who lived upstairs, was looking with envy from his window at the merry party of healthy Russians gathered under the chestnut tree. Beneath the trembling shadow circles of the leaves, around a table covered with a white cloth and set out with coffee pot, bread, butter, cheese, and cold game, sat the princess in a cap with lilac ribbons, handing out cups of coffee and sandwiches. At the other end sat the prince, making a substantial meal and talking loudly and merrily. He spread out his purchases before him, carved caskets, spillikins, and paper knives of all kinds, of which he had bought quantities at all the different watering places, and he gave them away to everybody, including Lieschen, the maid, and the landlord, with whom he joked in his funny broken German, assuring him that not the waters had cured Kitty, but his excellent food, especially his plum soup. The princess laughed at her husband for his Russian ways, but was livelier and brighter than she had ever been during her stay at the watering place. The colonel smiled, as he always did at the prince's jokes, but with regard to Europe, which he thought he had carefully studied, he sided with the princess. The good-natured Mary Evgenievna shook with laughter at everything the amusing prince said, and even Varenka, in a way new to Kitty, succumbed to the feeble but infectious laughter inspired by the prince's jokes. All this cheered Kitty up, but she could not help being troubled. She could not solve the problem unconsciously set her by her father's jocular view of her friends, and of the life she had begun to love so much. To this problem was added the change in her relations with the Petrovs, which had been so clearly and unpleasantly demonstrated that morning. Everybody was merry, but Kitty could not be merry, and this troubled her still more. She felt almost as she used to feel when, as a child, she was locked up in a room for punishment, and heard her sister's merry laughter. "Now, why have you bought that mass of things?" asked the princess, smiling and passing her husband a cup of coffee. "One goes out walking, comes to a shop, and they ask one to buy something. It's erlaucht, Excellence, durchlaucht. Well, by the time they get to durchlaucht, I can't resist. and 10 thalers are gone. That's all because you're bored, said the princess. Bored? Of course I am. The time hangs so heavy, my dear, that one does not know what to do with oneself. How can you be bored, Prince? There is so much that is interesting in Germany now, said Mary Evgenievna. But I know all your interesting things, plum soup and pea sausages. I know them. I know it all. No, say what you please, Prince. Their institutions are interesting, said the colonel. What is there interesting about them? They are as self-satisfied as brass farthings. They've conquered everybody. Now tell me what I am to be pleased about. I have not conquered anybody, but here I have to take off my own boots and even put them outside the door myself. In the morning I have to get up and dress at once and go down to the dining room to drink bad tea. Is it like that at home? There, one wakes up without any hurry, gets a bit cross about something, grumbles a bit, comes well to one's senses, and thinks everything well over without hurrying. But time is money. Don't forget that, said the colonel. It all depends on what time. There are times when one would give a whole month for a shilling, and there are times when you would not give half an hour at any price. Is that not so, Kitty? Why are you so glum? I'm all right. Where are you off to? Stay a little longer, he said, turning to Varenka. I must get home, said Varenka, rising and bursting into another fit of laughter. When she had recovered, she took leave and went into the house for her hat. Kitty followed her. Even Varenka seemed different now. She was not worse, but different from what Kitty previously had imagined her to be. "Oh dear, I've not laughed so much for a long time," said Varenka, collecting her sunshade and bag. "What a dear your papa is." Kitty remained silent. "When shall we meet?" asked Varenka. "Mamma was going to call on the Petrovs. Will you be there?" asked Kitty, trying to sound Varenka. "I will," answered Varenka. "They're preparing to leave, so I have promised to help them pack." "Then I'll come too." "No, why should you?" "Why not?" asked Kitty with wide open eyes, and holding Varenka's sunshade to prevent her going. "No, wait a bit. Tell me why not." "Oh, nothing. Only your papa has returned, and they don't feel at ease with you." No, tell me why you do not wish me to be often at the Petrovs. You don't, do you? Why?" "I've not said so," replied Varenka quietly. "No, please tell me." "Shall I tell you everything?" said Varenka. Everything, said Kitty. "There's nothing special to tell. Only Petrov used to want to leave sooner, but now does not want to go," said Varenka, smiling. "Well, go on," Kitty hurried her, looking at her with a frown. "Well, I don't know why, but Anna Pavlovna says he does not want to go because you are here. Of course that was tactless, but they quarrelled about you. And you know how excitable such invalids are." Kitty frowned yet more, and remained silent, and only Varenka spoke, trying to soften and soothe Kitty, and foreseeing an approaching explosion of tears or words, she knew not which. "So it is better for you not to go. And, you understand, don't be hurt." It serves me right, Kitty began hurriedly, snatching Varenka's sunshade out of her hands and looking past her friend's eyes. Varenka felt like smiling at her friend's childish anger, but feared to offend her. "Why serves you right? I don't understand," she said. "It serves me right because it was all pretense, all invented and not heartfelt. What business had I with a stranger? So it comes about that I am the cause of a quarrel, and have been doing what nobody asked me to do, because it is all pretense, and pretense." "But what motive had you for pretending?" said Varenka softly. "Oh, how stupid. There was no need at all. It was all pretense," Kitty said, opening and shutting the sunshade. "But with what object? To appear better than others to myself and to God, to deceive everybody. No, I shall not give in to that again. Let me be bad, but at any rate not false, not a humbug." "But who's a humbug?" asked Varenka reproachfully. "You speak as if—" But Kitty was in one of her fits of passion. She would not let Varenka finish. "I'm not talking about you, not about you at all. You are perfection. Yes, you are all perfection. But how can I help it if I'm bad? It would not have happened if I were not bad. So let me be what I am, but not pretend. What is Anna Pavlovna to me? Let them live as they like, and I will live as I like. I cannot be different. And it's all not the thing, not the thing. But what is not the thing? Said Varenka, quite perplexed. It's all not the thing. I can't live except by my own heart, but you live by principles. I have loved you quite simply, but you, I expect, only in order to save me, to teach me. You are unjust, said Varenka. But I'm not talking about others, only about myself. Kitty, came her mother's voice, come here and show Papa your corals. Kitty took from the table a little box which held the corals, and with a proud look, without having made it up with her friend, went to where her mother was. What's the matter? Why are you so red? Asked both her mother and her father together. Nothing, she said. I'll come back in a minute, and ran away. She's still here, thought Kitty. What shall I say to her? Oh dear, what have I done? What have I said? Why have I offended her? What am I to do? What shall I say to her? Thought Kitty, and stopped at the door. Varenka, with her hat on, sat at the table examining the spring of her sunshade, which Kitty had broken. She looked up. Varenka, forgive me, whispered Kitty, coming close to her. I don't remember what I said. Really, I did not wish to distress you, said Varenka with a smile. Peace was made, but with his father's return the world in which she had been living completely changed for Kitty. She did not renounce all she had learned, but realized that she had deceived herself in thinking that she could be what she wished to be. It was as if she had recovered consciousness. She felt the difficulty of remaining without hypocrisy or boastfulness on the level to which she had wished to rise. Moreover, she felt the oppressiveness of that world of sorrow, sickness and death in which she was living. The effort she had been making to love it now seemed tormenting, and she longed to get away quickly to the fresh air, back to Russia, back to Argushovo, where, as she knew from a letter, her sister Dolly had moved with the children. But her affection for Varenka was not weakened. When taking leave of her, Kitty tried to persuade her to come and stay with them in Russia. I will come when you are married, said Varenka. I shall never marry. Well then, I shall never come. Then I will marry for that purpose only. Mind now, don't forget your promise, said Kitty. The doctor's prediction was justified. Kitty returned to Russia quite cured. She was not as careless and light-hearted as before, but she was at peace. Her old Moscow sorrows were no more than a memory.